Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Abhishek Mukhopadhyay and with me is Saira Mujtaba with the Midday News. The headlines. The second India-Australia summit underway in virtual format. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that two countries made remarkable progress in several areas including trade and investment, defence and security. Prime Minister Modi thanks his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison for repatriation of 29 antiquities belonging to various regions of the country. President Ramnath Kovind to confer Padma Awards for the year 2022 at Rashtrapati Bhavan this afternoon. Pro-Time Speaker of Uttarakhand, Bansidhar Bhagat, administers oath to newly elected MLAs in the Assembly. BJP Legislative Party to elect its leader this evening. Centres redefine and broaden the inclusive education for students with disability, says Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan in the Lok Sabha. Hong Kong to lift flight ban on 9 countries from the 1st of next month. All precautionary measures in place in Andaman and Nicobar Islands in view of deep depression developing in Bay of Bengal and South Andaman Sea. 13th Faza International Championships World Para-Athletics Grand Prix begins in Dubai today. And International Day of Forest, World Down Syndrome Day and World Poetry Day been observed today. As we start the bulletin, we appeal to our listeners to stay safe from COVID-19 by following these 4 simple steps. Get fully vaccinated, wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The second India-Australia virtual summit is now underway. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in his opening remarks at the summit that in the last few years the relation between India and Australia have made remarkable progress. He said both the nations have very close cooperation in several areas including trade and investment, defence and security, education and innovation, science and technology.
पिछले कुछ वर्षों में हमारे संबंधों में उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई है. ट्रेड और इन्वेस्टमेंट, डिफेंस और सिक्योरिटी, एजुकेशन और इनोवेशन, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, इन सभी क्षेत्रों में हमारा बहुत करीबी सहयोग है. कई अन्य क्षेत्र जैसे क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, वाटर मैनेजमेंट, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, कोविड-19 रिसर्च में भी हमारे बीच कोलैबोरेशन तेजी से बढ़ा है. बेंगलुरु में सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंसी फॉर क्रिटिकल एंड इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजी पॉलिसी की स्थापना की घोषणा का मैं हृदय से बहुत-बहुत स्वागत करता हूं.
Mr. Modi said the conclusion of Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement (CECA) will be important for our economic ties, economic revival and economic security. He said on this agreement significant progress has been made in a very short time. Mr. Modi said both the nations have also good cooperation in Quad. He said a collaboration reflects commitment to free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Prime Minister Modi also thanked his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison for taking the initiative to return ancient Indian antiquities. He said many of the antiquities are over 100 of years old, which were taken out of the country illegally from the states like Rajasthan, West Bengal, Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh. During this summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison will take stock of progress made on various initiatives under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. The summit will lay the way forward on new initiatives and enhance cooperation in a diverse range of sectors between India and Australia. The leaders are also expected to discuss views on regional and international issues. This summit highlights the importance that both countries attach to their bilateral relations as well as the close cooperation in regional and international issues. Here is more from a correspondent.
The India-Australia bilateral relationship has evolved in recent years, developing along a positive track into a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2020. Australia's White Paper on Foreign Policy, released in November 2017, sees India in the front rank of Australia's international partnerships. There is a strategic convergence with Australia, with a civil nuclear cooperation agreement, a technical agreement on wide shipping information exchange, an arrangement concerning mutual logistics support, military exercises like like Oz Index and multilateral ones such as Malabar Exercise. Australia is a key partner in the Quad initiative as well as in the Indo-Pacific. It is also a partner in trilateral constructs like India-Australia-Indonesia and India-Australia-France as well as in ASEAN-led forums. The Indian community in Australia continues to grow in size and importance with a population of over 7,21,000. India is one of the top sources of skilled immigrants to Australia. Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
President Ramnath Kovind will confer 2 Padma Vibhushan, 8 Padma Bhushan and 54 Padma Shri awards for the year 2022 today. Mr. Kovind will present the award at the Civil Investiture Ceremony 1 to be held at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Amongst the prominent awardees at today's investiture ceremony will be Padma Vibhushan recipients Radhe Shyam and General Bipin Rawat, posthumous. Padma Bhushan will be conferred on Gurmeet Baba, posthumous, Ghulam Nabi Azad, N. Chandrasekharan, Devendra Jhajaria, Rashid Khan, Rajiv Maharishi, Dr. Cyrus Poonawala and Sachidanand Swami. The civil investiture ceremony too is scheduled to be held on the 28th of March. This year, a total of 128 Padma awardees are being conferred. The list of awardees comprises 4 Padma Vibhushan, 17 Padma Bhushan and 107 Padma Shri awards. The Home Ministry said 34 of the awardees are women. Hectic parleys are on to form new governments in Uttarakhand, Goa and Manipur. BJP has won assembly elections in all the 3 states including Uttar Pradesh in the recently held polling. In Uttarakhand, Governor Gurmeet Singh administered the oath of office and secrecy to Pro-Tem Speaker Banshidhar Bhagat at Raj Bhavan today. After taking the oath, Mr. Bhagat administered the oath to all the newly elected MLAs in the assembly. Meanwhile, newly elected BJP MLAs of Uttarakhand will also meet in Dehradun this evening to elect their leader. Party central observers and union ministers Rajnath Singh and Meenakshi Lekhi are arriving in Dehradun to attend the meeting. BJP has stormed back to power for the second successive term in the hill state. BJP got 47 seats in the recently held 70-seat Uttarakhand Legislative Assembly. Congress won 19 seats, while BSP and Independents won 2 seats each. In Goa also, newly elected MLAs will meet at 4 p.m. today to elect their leader. Goa BJP President Sadanand Shetanavade said after the meeting, party leaders will meet Goa Governor P.S. Sridharan Pillai and stake the claim to form a new government. He said party central observer Narendra Singh Tomar and co-observer L. Murugan, Goa election in charge Devendra Fadnavis, desk in charge C.T. Ravi will be present at the legislature party meeting. Mr. Tanawade said the date of swearing in will be decided after meeting the governor. BJP has 20 MLAs in the 40-member assembly and enjoys the support of 3 independents and 2 MLAs of Maharashtra-Wadi Gomantak Party (MGP).
In Manipur, the BJP leader and former Chief Minister of Manipur, N. Biren Singh, will take oath as the Chief Minister of Manipur for the second term in a short while from now. All necessary arrangements have been made at Raj Bhavan at Imphal for the swearing-in ceremony. The BJP National President J.P. Nadda arrived this afternoon in Imphal to attend the ceremony. Along with Mr. Biren, other 4 senior BJP MLAs, including T. Vishwajit and Y. Khemchand, also expected to take oath as Council of Ministers this afternoon. Senior party leader and Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced yesterday that Mr. Biren will be the leader of the legislature party in Manipur and will hold the post of Chief Minister for the second time. BJP got 32 seats out of 60 seats in the Manipur Assembly in the recently concluded elections. Opposition parties staged a walkout from the Assam Assembly today, alleging that the Chief Minister is trying to influence opposition legislators ahead of the Rajya Sabha polls. The polling for the 2 seats is scheduled to be held on the 31st of this month. All opposition MLAs displaying placards in the House in favour of the demands. They demanded the intervention of Speaker Vishwajit Demari to save the interests of the opposition legislatures as well as democratic values. After nearly 30 minutes of chaos, opposition MLAs walked out from the House. Later, Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma urged the Speaker to give a ruling if Chief Minister could visit opposition MLA's house and if campaigning in the Rajya Sabha polls is legitimate or not. Speaker Mr. Demari said that there was no rule that Chief Minister could not visit opposition MLA's house. He also ruled that campaigning during Rajya Sabha polls are also allowed. Meanwhile, Congress leader Ripun Bora has filed nomination for Rajya Sabha polls. BJP candidate Pavitra Margarita and UPPL candidate Rangaura Narzari will also file nomination papers today.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan today said that the centre, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has redefined and broadened the issue of inclusive education for students with disability. Replying to questions in the Lok Sabha, the minister said that the various forms of disabilities have been identified and the government is prepared to discuss issues pertaining to it. He said that the government will also look into the issue of certificate for identifying the quantum of disability so that students are not affected. The minister said Samagra Shiksha, an integrated scheme on school education, envisages the school as a continuum from preschool, primary, upper primary, secondary to senior secondary levels. Mr. Pradhan said financial assistance is also provided to states and UTs for undertaking identification and assessment of children with special needs, aids and appliances, braille kits and books. The government said it has taken a number of initiatives to ensure safety of women workers in garment factories in view of the high prevalence of gender-based violence in garment factories. Replying to questions in Lok Sabha, Labour and Employment Minister Bhupendra Yadav said the government has ensured that its institutions such as one-stop centres or OSCs, universalisation of Women's Helpline WHL, Ujjwala Homes, Swadhar Grihe, Child Care Institutions, Childline 1098, Emergency Response Support System 112 remained operational during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Yadav also highlighted that during lockdown, National Commission for Women (NCW) also took measures to assist women facing distress. The minister said the government has also enacted the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act with the aims to provide safe and secure work environment to women irrespective of their work status. Mr. Yadav, however, said data relating to workplace complaints from women workers is not maintained centrally by this ministry. You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. The second India-Australia summit underway in virtual format. Prime Minister Modi says the two countries made remarkable progress in several areas, including trade and investment, defence and security. Prime Minister Modi thanks his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison for repatriation of 29 antiquities belonging to various regions of the country. President Ramnath Kovind to confer Padma Awards for the year 2022 at Rashtrapati Bhavan this afternoon. Pro-Tem Speaker of Uttarakhand Banshidhar Bhagat administered the oath to newly elected MLAs in the Assembly, BJP Legislative Party to elect its leader this evening. Centre has redefined and broadened the inclusive education for students with disability, says Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan in Lok Sabha. Hong Kong to lift flight ban on 9 countries from the 1st of next month. All precautionary measures in place in Andaman and Nicobar Islands in view of deep depression developing in Bay of Bengal and South Andaman Sea. 13th Faza International Championships World Para-Athletics Grand Prix begins in Dubai today, and International Day of Forests, World Down Syndrome Day and World Poetry Day being observed today. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो खुद से वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Midday News. India's COVID vaccination coverage has exceeded 181 crore 24 lakh today. India's active caseload currently stands at 25,106. The recovery rate is currently at 98.74%, with 2,652 recoveries in the last 24 hours. This has taken the total recoveries to over 4 crore 24 lakh. A total of 1,549 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. Hong Kong will lift flight ban imposed in view of Omicron from 9 countries from the 1st of next month. The countries where ban will be lifted include India, Nepal, Pakistan, Australia, Canada, France, the Philippines, Britain and the US. The city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, announced this during a press conference today. He said quarantine time from 14 to 7 days for travellers arriving in the city will also be reduced as coronavirus infections in its latest outbreak are flattening. Such travellers must be fully vaccinated and test negative for the coronavirus before entering the city.
The depression formed over southeast Bay of Bengal and adjoining South Andaman Sea is moving north-northeastwards along and off the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It is likely to intensify into a deep depression in the next 12 hours and transform into a storm cyclone by evening. Dense clouds and moderate rainfall was observed in Port Blair yesterday. Taking precautionary measures, all tourism activities in Andaman and Nicobar Islands have been suspended till tomorrow. All schools will remain closed today. 4 shore sector shipping services have also been cancelled. Meanwhile, teams of NDRF deployed in Andaman and Nicobar Islands are surveying and sensitizing people in low-lying areas with the help of district administration. The Central Bureau of Investigation has arrested a senior intelligence officer, Mohit Dhankar, working in the office of Directorate General of GST Intelligence, Ghaziabad, in a bribery case of 60 lakh rupees. The central agency has also arrested a person named Rakesh Sharma in the case. It said that a case was registered in this regard on the basis of a complaint against the accused on allegations of demanding bribe. It was further alleged that the accused demanded bribe of 1 crore rupees through private persons or touts for showing official favour to complainant's father in a case at DGGI Ghaziabad. CBI laid a trap and caught the person for accepting bribe of 60 lakh rupees as first instalment on behalf of a public servant. The public servant was also caught. Searches were also conducted at the premises of the accused.
TMC MP Abhishek Banerjee today appeared before the Enforcement Directorate ED in New Delhi for questioning in a money laundering case linked to an alleged coal scam in West Bengal. Our correspondent, quoting official sources, reports Mr. Banerjee's statement will be recorded under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act (PMLA) and is expected to be confronted with some evidences gathered by investigators in the case. The Diamond Harbour MP was once questioned in this case in September last year. And now let's listen to a special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News, Birth of a Nation.
India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
On the 21st of March 1858, the British were able to break the siege of Lucknow during the First War of Indian Independence. Freedom fighter Ahmadullah Shah and his 1,200 soldiers were driven from a fortified house in the centre of the city. With this last siege, the British successfully destroyed the organised freedom struggle in the kingdom of Awadh.
Awadh had been annexed by the East India Company in 1856. When the First War of Independence started in May 1857, it threatened British authority in several areas of India, but most particularly in Awadh, where the dispossessed rulers and landowners joined with the mutinied regiments.
In Lucknow, from the 1st of July to the 26th of November 1857, the British withstood the siege of the Residency to the north of the city. During the winter, the British re-established communications with Delhi and with Calcutta. They also received fresh reinforcements from Britain and built up a substantial transport and supply column.
On the 11th of March 1858, there was severe fighting for the Begum Koti, in which 700 freedom fighters died. The Kaisarbagh area was captured on the 14th of March, but its defenders were able to retreat without difficulty.
On the 16th of March 1858, the British stormed the Residency and Begum Hazrat Mahal and her son Birjis Qadr were driven from the palace. The last rebels were driven from a fortified house in the centre of the city on the 21st of March, and the British declared the city clear of activists.
We also remember revolutionary freedom fighter Prafulla Nalini Brahmo, who was arrested by the British police on the 21st of March 1932 in connection with the murder of the British official Stevens.
Prafulla was born in 1914 at the village of Comilla, now in Bangladesh. She was the daughter of nationalist, lawyer Rajanikanta Brahmo, who gave up his job during the civil disobedience movement 1930. Prafulla was the first girl to be recruited for the Jugantar group of Comilla after a lengthy discussion with Akhil Nandi. Prafulla convinced Nandi of her willingness and ability to do revolutionary work and was assigned the task to organize the women's wing of the revolutionary group in the district.
Prafulla immediately proved her competence by recruiting her schoolmates Shanti Ghosh and Suniti Chaudhary, who later became famous revolutionaries. Then, to expand the women's wing of the Jugantar group of Comilla, Tripura District Women Students Organization was formed with Prafulla as president and Shanti as a secretary.
After being arrested for the murder of Stevens, Prafulla was detained in Comilla jail. She was made a détenue due to lack of evidence. On the 30th of May 1932, she was transported to Hijli jail. In April 1936, she was released and interned in her own house at Comilla. During the internment, she became a victim of appendicitis.
According to rules, an internee could consult a doctor only after securing the permission of the local police officer. This system was inconvenient for a patient as the officer was not always easily available. This actually happened in Prafulla's case. By the time her father could bring a doctor with the permission of the police, Prafulla died on the 22nd of February 1937. We salute the great freedom fighter.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
आजादी के आंदोलन के खजाने में ऐसे ढेरों शब्द जिन्होंने बदल दिए इतिहास, तारीख बदलने वाले लफ्जों पर आकाशवाणी समाचार प्रसारित कर रहा है विशेष कार्यक्रम धरोहर हर सोमवार।
In some international news, Ukraine has rejected a Russian demand to give up the city of Mariupol by Monday. Ukrainian officials rejected the Russian proposal for safe passage out of Mariupol even before Moscow's 5 a.m. deadline for a response came and went. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk told news agency that there can be no talk of any surrender or laying down of arms. He said Ukraine have already informed the Russian side about this. Ukraine's president accuses Russia of war crimes in Mariupol, where heavy fighting has now reached the city center. About 300,000 people are reportedly trapped without power or water and little food. News just in, a China Eastern passenger jet carrying 133 people has crashed in southwest China. The Boeing 737 plane crashed in the rural countryside near Wuzhou City, Guangxi region, resulting in a mountain fire. The number of casualties is not known. Rescue operations are underway.
United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has said that 13 million children in Afghanistan are in dire need of international assistance. Stating this, Sam Mott, communications chief of UNICEF in Afghanistan, said nearly 4 million children are out of school. 8 out of 10 people in Afghanistan are drinking water infected with bacteria. Sam Mott called on donors to provide $2 billion as soon as possible to provide education and health services for Afghan children. The Senate Judiciary Committee is beginning a historic confirmation hearings today for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who would be the first black woman on the Supreme Court. Jackson is expected to present an opening statement Monday afternoon and thereafter answer questions from the committee's 11 Democrats and 11 Republicans over the next 2 days. She will be introduced by Thomas B. Griffith, a retired judge for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, and Lisa M. Fairfax, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School.
Today is Navroz, the Parsi New Year. Seen as a harbinger of peace and prosperity, Navroz is the most widely celebrated festival of the Parsi community. Besides celebration, Navroz is also the day of repentance. The day is dedicated to cleanse and purify the mind and start a new year with love and peace. People wear traditional clothes and visit fire temples, also known as Aghyari, and offer milk, flowers, fruits, sandalwood to the sacred fire. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have greeted people on Navroz. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu hoped that this auspicious day ushers in a year of peace, prosperity and happiness in our lives. He also hoped that Navroz will strengthen the bonds of solidarity, fraternity and mutual respect among all. In a tweet, Mr. Modi hoped that the coming year brings with it joy and outstanding health to everyone's lives. Today is International Day of Forests. The day is observed every year on the 21st of March to raise awareness about the significance of different types of forests. The theme for this year is Forests and Sustainable Production and Consumption. On this day, several countries across the world are encouraged to undertake local, national and international efforts to organize activities involving forests and trees, such as tree planting campaigns. The day reminds people to value and save forests and the importance of forests in the lives of living creatures.
World Down Syndrome Day, WDSD, is observed every year on 21st March to spread awareness about Down syndrome. March 21st was selected to signify the uniqueness of the triplication of the 21st chromosomes, which causes Down syndrome, a disorder that affects approximately 6,000 babies at birth every year. The day helps educate the public on what Down syndrome is and how to encourage those with Down syndrome to participate in daily activities so they can live a full life and play a vital role in their community. It is usually associated with physical growth delays, mild to moderate intellectual disability, and characteristic facial features. The average IQ of a young adult with Down syndrome is 50, equivalent to the mental ability of an 8 or 9-year-old child, but this can vary widely. Today is World Poetry Day. It is observed every year on the 21st of March to celebrate one of humanity's most treasured forms of cultural and linguistic expression and identity. Extending wishes to mark the day, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has said, poetry is the most refined expression of human feelings and emotions. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said, great poetry has universal appeal, transcending barriers of time and space. He asked everyone to come together to enrich a great poetic traditions in all languages.
A 29-member Indian team led by Paralympian Dharambir will take part in the 13th Faza International Championships World Para-Athletics Grand Prix beginning in Dubai today. The championships will kick off the World Para-Athletics Grand Prix season with around 500 para-athletes from 43 nations to be in action. At the stock markets, after opening higher in the day, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange erased all its gains to decline 529 points or 0.9% to trade at 57,335 in the afternoon session at 2 p.m. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange dropped 147 points or 0.9% to 17,140.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have clear sky. Mumbai will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Chennai is likely to have generally cloudy sky with light rain. Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. Visakhapatnam will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. Guwahati will have haze. Imphal, Shillong, Aizawl and Kohima will have mainly clear sky. Itanagar and Gangtok will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. The second India-Australia summit underway in virtual format. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the two countries made remarkable progress in several areas including trade and investment, defence and security. Prime Minister Modi thanks his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison for repatriation of 29 antiquities belonging to various regions of the country. President Ramnath Kovind to confer Padma Awards for the year 2022 at Rashtrapati Bhavan this afternoon. Pro-Tem Speaker of Uttarakhand, Bansidhar Bhagat, administers oath to newly elected MLAs in the Assembly. BJP Legislative Party to elect its leader this evening. Centres redefine and broaden the inclusive education for students with disability, says Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan in the Lok Sabha. Hong Kong to lift flight ban on 9 countries from the 1st of next month. All precautionary measures in place in Andaman and Nicobar Islands in view of deep depression developing in Bay of Bengal and South Andaman Sea. 13th Faza International Championships World Para-Athletics Grand Prix begins in Dubai today. And International Day of Forest, World Down Syndrome Day and World Poetry Day being observed today. And with that we end the Midday News.